Ever wish you could just like navigate any organization effortlessly? Ace every performance review. Feel totally secure in your job.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want that, right?
Well, get this. A study actually found a way to make that happen.
Really?
Yeah, and today we're diving deep into all that. It's the world of power dynamics and social capital.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we're going to be guided by this book by Jeffrey Pfeffer. It's called Power, Why Some People Have It and Others Don't.
I've heard of that one.
It's pretty fascinating stuff. You know, we always hear about individual skills being the key to success.
Right, right.
But Pfeffer's like, hold on, there's something else going on here.
What's that?
The power of networks, relationships, the stuff we often overlook. And we're not just talking theory here.
Oh, good.
We're going to look at some specific research, real-world examples, and get this.
What?
Actionable advice. Things you can actually use to understand and navigate all these power structures.
That's what I like to hear. Practical stuff.
Exactly. So this deep dive, it's all about giving you the knowledge to not just understand how power works, but to actually like use it, leverage your network.
Right, right. Yeah.
And maybe even overcome some of those challenges that come with, well, with having influence, with wielding power.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's unpack this.
So Pfeffer, he highlights this one study,
Yep.
right, where employees at a company, they got this training.
Training. Okay.
It was all about diagnosing and using networks. Sounds kind of clinical.
Like you're a doctor for your network.
Right. But the results, they were mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me.
The employees who went through this training, their performance review scores jumped 35%.
Wow.
43% more likely to get promoted.
Seriously?
And hold on, 42% less likely to leave the company.
That's incredible. Those are huge numbers.
Right, like it makes you think.
It does.
Knowing how to work your network, it's not just some fluffy feel-good thing.
Yeah.
It can actually like seriously impact your career.
Big time.
But it's not just about going to a training. Right?
No, of course not. It's got to be more than that.
It's about understanding the why, the how,
The principles behind it all.
building and using social capital.
Yeah.
Pfeffer has some great examples. People who've really mastered this stuff.
Okay, like who?
Remember that person we talked about before? The one who sends out like 700 holiday letters?
Wait, 700. Who does that?
I know, right? It seems crazy.
Yeah.
But this is Heidi Roizen. While the rest of us are like, sending cards to a handful of people, she was thinking bigger.
Strategic.
Totally. She understood that staying connected, even with people you don't see all the time, it's valuable.
I see.
A quick note, an email every now and then,
Yeah.
it keeps you on people's radar.
It's like out of sight, out of mind, but the opposite.
Exactly. And this isn't about spamming everyone.
Right.
It's about, actually nurturing those connections.
Building genuine relationships.
Right. And you do it consistently, little by little. Over time, it really pays off.
So small efforts, big returns.
Yeah. And it reminds me of another example, the guy who chose his desk strategically.
Oh, yeah. What was that one? Refresh my memory.
Okay, so this entry-level analyst at a venture capital firm, he had a choice.
Okay, choices.
Quiet cubicle, tucked away in the corner,
Sounds peaceful.
or a tiny little workstation right outside a partner's office.
Interesting.
What do you think he went for?
Knowing what we know now, I'm guessing he didn't go for peace and quiet.
Nope. He wanted to be where the action was,
Smart.
right by the partner's office. He was in the flow of everything. Information, people coming and going.
So he basically engineered his own access to power.
Subtly, but yeah. And it paid off big time. He was so in tune with what was going on at the firm that he ended up being everyone's go-to for information.
Wow.
And guess what? They offered him a job after graduation,
No way, really.
which apparently was unheard of for an analyst at that company.
So just from choosing the right desk. Amazing.
Shows you even small choices can make a difference.
They can.
And it all goes back to what Pfeffer talks about, the power of weak ties.
Ah, yes. So many people, they focus on their close circle of friends, colleagues.
Right, the usual suspects.
But Pfeffer, he argues that a big network of weak ties,
Those are the real gold.
more beneficial. It's counterintuitive.
It is. People are always surprised by that.
Makes sense, though.
Because those weak ties, they connect you to a whole different range of people. Different organizations, different information.
Information you wouldn't have access to otherwise.
Exactly. Your close circle, they all know the same stuff, right?
Yeah.
But those weak ties, they're bridges to new worlds.
I like that. Bridges.
It's not about being fake or anything.
No.
It's about genuine connections.
Across different areas of your life.
Yeah. And work, too.
Mm.
Expanding your horizons,
Opening yourself up to new opportunities.
Exactly. And that brings us to something called bridging structural holes.
Bridging structural holes. Okay, I think I've heard that term before, but
Yeah. I know our listeners are pretty savvy about networking, so let's break that down a little more.
yeah, good idea.
Okay, imagine this. You have different groups of people who would totally benefit from knowing each other,
Right.
but they don't. And you become the bridge. You connect them.
Oh, I get it.
You become the crucial link. That's a powerful position to be in.
Makes sense. And that offers advantages.
Big time. It's not just about being social. Research shows that people who do this,
Fill those structural holes.
yeah, they get better promotions, climb the ladder faster.
Oh, wow.
And guess what?
Yeah.
They even earn more.
So bridging those gaps really pays off.
And even their education, their experience, it seems to be worth more.
So it's not just who you know, but how you connect them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's a question. Let's say you know someone who's already doing this, who's bridging these holes.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you just ride their coattails? Benefit from their connections?
Good question.
Well, Pfeffer says no. The research is clear. You have to do the networking yourself.
So no free rides.
Nope. You can't inherit this stuff. You have to earn it.
Got it. So build your own network.
Be the architect.
Okay. But it's not just who you know, right?
Right. It's also how you act, how you speak.
How you present yourself.
Pfeffer has a whole chapter on, the art of power, how to act and speak powerfully.
Even if you don't feel powerful yet.
Exactly. Which, let's be honest, a lot of us struggle with that. Any tips on projecting confidence when you're feeling, anything but?
Well, Pfeffer uses this example. Remember Oliver North from the Iran-Contra hearings?
Yeah.
Even under all that pressure, all that scrutiny, he projected this total confidence, this assurance.
That's a pretty extreme example, but I get your point.
It's about faking it till you make it, a little bit. You act confident, and even if you don't feel it at first.
Over time, you start to believe it yourself.
Exactly. Your behavior can actually change your thoughts and feelings.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Powerful stuff.
Very powerful.
And it's not just confidence. Pfeffer talks about controlling the context, too.
Controlling the context.
Like using your surroundings to your advantage.
How so?
Think about the physical environment. Seating arrangements, office design, even how formal or informal a setting is. It can all influence how people perceive power.
Oh, interesting.
Like, if a powerful executive wants to really emphasize their status, where do they meet you?
Somewhere fancy, probably.
Right. A big formal office. Or they might arrange the seating in a way that puts them, subtly in charge.
I never thought about that.
Right. So these tiny details.
But they can have a big impact.
Totally. On how the whole interaction plays out.
This is making me rethink every meeting I've ever been in.
Right. I'm going to be paying attention to those cues from now on.
Me too. It's amazing what you can learn just from observing.
Totally. And it's not just the physical context. Pfeffer also talks about the importance of image.
Image, yeah.
First impressions matter. Big time.
That old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Right. And those first impressions, they can become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Right. People treat you based on how they initially perceive you.
Exactly. Pfeffer takes it even further, though. He says those perceptions, they can actually shape your future behavior.
That's interesting.
And the opportunities that come your way.
Powerful stuff. Makes you think about the image you're projecting.
Right. It makes you realize you have to be intentional about it.
Makes me think of that example from the book, the young executive who built a reputation that was way bigger than his actual experience at the time.
Oh, yeah. He was super media savvy. He leveraged that to create this image that was larger than life.
And it worked. Doors opened for him.
He ended up getting a CFO position at 27 years old.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder about the whole self-promotion thing, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
How do you build that image without coming across as arrogant?
Right, like you're bragging all the time.
Pfeffer has a really clever solution. Get other people to sing your praises.
Let your work speak for itself.
Yeah, and let other people amplify that message.
That's smart. It's more believable, less off-putting.
Totally. It's like a glowing recommendation. It carries more weight because it's coming from someone else.
Like they're more objective.
Exactly. And it ties into this broader theme of overcoming opposition.
Because let's face it, we all face obstacles.
Right. No matter how talented or ambitious we are, there are always going to be people who...
To get in the way.
Yeah. They want to protect their turf, resist change.
It's natural.
It is. But Pfeffer suggests something that's a little unexpected.
Oh. I'm curious.
Sometimes The best way to deal with an opponent? Help
Yeah.
them move on to another organization.
Really? Help your rival get out of the way. That's an interesting strategy.
Right. It's not what you'd expect.
Mm.
But by doing that, you're not just getting rid of conflict.
You're also showing everyone you're a strategic thinker.
Exactly. You're playing the long game.
Makes you think.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We were just talking about that idea of helping rivals move on, to other opportunities.
It seemed kind of counterintuitive at first.
It did. But it shows how strategic Pfeffer is, how he thinks.
It goes back to what we were saying about companies. They don't always put their employees first,
Right.
even when it comes to loyalty.
It's true. A lot of companies prioritize the short-term, shareholder value, all that.
Even if it means, kind of screwing over their employees.
Sometimes, yeah. Pfeffer's point is, in today's world, you got to look out for yourself.
Makes sense.
He's not saying be disloyal or unethical, but...
Be smart.
Right. Take charge of your own career. Don't wait for the company to do it for you.
It's like understanding the rules of the game.
And playing to win.
Okay, so back to power dynamics. We were talking about how people lose power once they have it.
Right.
What are some of the, classic mistakes?
Oh, there are a few. Overconfidence, that's a big one.
Easy to get cocky when you're on top.
It is. Power can be intoxicating.
Right. And it makes you arrogant and you lose touch.
With the people around you. You start to believe your own hype.
It's that whole absolute power corrupts absolutely thing.
Exactly. Timeless wisdom. And with overconfidence comes insensitivity.
You stop listening.
You dismiss people's concerns. You become blind to the consequences of your actions.
That's like power creates this bubble.
It does. And it isolates you from reality, which leads to bad decisions.
And eventually that chips away at your power.
It does.
We talked about trust before, having a strong network.
Right.
But trust can be a weakness too, can it?
It absolutely can.
Pfeffer talks about building trust with your allies.
Yes.
But he also says, be careful who you trust.
Especially as you gain more power, people will try to use you.
It's like that story in the book about the CEO who got pushed out after a merger.
Oh, yeah, even though they promised him shared power.
Classic example, he trusted them, but...
He didn't see the game they were playing.
So how do you protect yourself? How do you know who to trust? Especially when everyone's, playing the power game.
Pfeffer says, watch what people do, not just what they say.
Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. Look for patterns, not promises.
Be willing to walk away if you feel like someone's betraying your trust.
That's important. Protect yourself.
But you still have to be open to forming alliances.
It's a balancing act.
Speaking of balance, Pfeffer also talks about how even when you have power, you can lose it just by...
Getting tired?
Yeah.
That happens.
The constant pressure, the demands, the problems that never end.
It's exhausting. You have to be on all the time.
And eventually, it wears you down.
It does.
Pfeffer uses the example of that co-founder who stepped down from his own company.
Right.
Not because he was forced out or anything, just because he was burnt out.
It's a good reminder. Success has a price.
And you got to know your limits.
Yeah,
When to step back, recharge.
absolutely.
It's easy to forget about that when you're caught up in the pursuit of power.
It is. Balance is key.
And you got to be able to adapt too. Pfeffer gives some examples of leaders who failed because...
Couldn't keep up.
Yeah, things changed and they just clung to the old ways.
It's a reminder, what worked in the past won't always work in the future.
And even if you do everything right, eventually everyone loses power.
That's true. It's the nature of things.
So how do you leave gracefully? Pfeffer talks about that too.
He does. He says it's important to prepare for transitions.
Into power and out of it.
Exactly. Have a plan, build a legacy.
And if you can, leave on your own terms.
So it's not just about getting power, it's about managing its loss.
Makes you think about the whole journey.
It does. And it's not just about individual ambition either.
Right, it's bigger than that.
Pfeffer says hierarchies are everywhere.
From tiny teams to huge corporations.
Always someone on top.
And everyone's competing for those higher status positions.
He asks a really interesting question, though.
What's that?
Are these power dynamics actually good for organizations?
Tough question.
It is. He says power can be used for good or bad.
Right. It can drive innovation, but it can also lead to corruption.
Create efficiency, but also stifle creativity.
It all depends on how it's used.
And on the culture of the organization?
The values of the people in charge. And since organizations don't always have your best interests at heart.
Right.
Pfeffer says you're justified in, looking out for number one.
Prioritizing your own career. Because in today's world, you can't always count on the company to take care of you.
This is really making me think about my own career.
It's a lot to process,
It is.
but Pfeffer gives us some great tools to work with.
One thing's for sure, hierarchies are everywhere.
It's the way the world works.
Always going to be a pecking order.
And competition for the top spots.
Pfeffer makes an interesting point about status, too.
What's that?
He says the status you earn in one area of your life, it often spills over into other areas.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, if you're successful at work, that might give you a certain status in your community.
Or your social circles.
Exactly. It's like this halo effect. Status crosses boundaries. This has been a fascinating look at power dynamics.
It has.
We've covered so much ground. Networking, social capital, the dangers of overconfidence, adapting to change. We've really been digging deep into this whole power thing, haven't we?
We have. All those little things that can trip you up. Even when you think you're on top.
Yeah. But let's switch gears a little.
Okay.
How do we actually use all this stuff? What are the strategies? How do we navigate these power dynamics, and actually get what we want?
Well, Pfeffer has tons of advice in the book, but one thing that really stands out is the power of perception.
What do you mean?
People judge you based on how you present yourself, not always on your actual achievements.
So it's not enough to just be good at what you do?
Well, yeah, you got to be competent, but you also have to look the part.
Fake it till you make it.
Kind of, but it's more than that. It's about being deliberate.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about how you communicate, how you dress, even just how you carry yourself.
It all creates an image.
Exactly. And Pfeffer has this great example. He compares two football coaches, John Madden and Bill Walsh.
I know those names.
Madden actually had a better winning percentage,
Okay.
but he ended up leaving coaching early.
And Walsh,
Walsh was seen as a genius, never got pushed out.
even though his record wasn't as good.
Right. It's all about perception.
Wow. Okay, so how do we create that positive image, the one that makes people see us as powerful, influential?
Pfeffer has a few ideas. First impressions, they matter.
Like a lot.
Those first few seconds, they can really stick with people.
Makes me think of that young executive we talked about, the one who became a CFO at 27.
Yeah, he got it. He knew image was everything.
From the beginning.
And it's not just about being in the media or anything like that.
Right.
It's about thinking strategically, about every interaction.
Okay.
Pfeffer also says, take some time to really define what kind of image you want to project. What are your strengths? What are your values? What do you want to be known for?
And then act accordingly.
Right. Align your actions with your desired image.
This makes me think of that other advice. Using the media to build visibility.
Ah, yes.
But not everyone has access to, major news outlets.
True. But you can still be strategic. Think about your online presence, your professional network, how you engage with your industry.
Become a resource.
Mhm,
Make
mhm.
yourself visible to the right people.
Exactly. Like Nuria Chinchilla.
Who's that?
She's this expert on women in the workplace. She got known internationally partly because she was really good at working with journalists.
Interesting.
She understood the power of media coverage, so she made herself available, provided data, insights, a fresh perspective.
So you can shape your public image, even without a big PR team.
Absolutely. And this brings us back to the whole self-promotion problem.
The one that everyone struggles with.
How do you talk about your accomplishments without sounding like a jerk?
Right.
Pfeffer says, don't brag. Let other people do it for you.
It's more convincing that way.
Exactly. Build relationships with people who can advocate for you, who believe in your work.
Mentors, colleagues.
People with influence.
Okay, so build a network of supporters.
Yes. Let them amplify your message. Boost your reputation.
This reminds me of that other strategy. Overcoming opposition.
Because there will always be obstacles.
People who try to block you.
That's part of the game.
And Pfeffer has some pretty surprising suggestions for how to deal with that.
Right. Remember that one about helping your opponent move to a different organization?
Yeah, that's kind of radical.
It is. But it's also really strategic.
You're not just eliminating conflict,
You're showing that you can think long-term.
and that you're not afraid to make bold moves.
And what about when you can't avoid conflict? What then?
Good question.
Pfeffer says try to depersonalize it. Focus on the facts, the data. Don't let emotions take over.
So you don't get caught up in personal attacks.
Right. Stay objective.
Find a solution that works for everyone. And don't give up.
Persistence is key.
Pfeffer tells this amazing story about a surgeon. She wanted to start a breast cancer center, but she faced so much resistance.
What happened?
She didn't give up.
Good for her.
She was persistent. And she had this really compelling mission.
Powerful
And
combinations.
it shows you sometimes you need both, the strategy and the heart.
Absolutely.
And it's important to remember all this stuff about power. It's not just about individuals, climbing the ladder.
Great, it's bigger than that.
It affects how organizations work,
Yeah.
even society as a whole.
Pfeffer makes that really clear. Hierarchies, they're everywhere. It's built into the system.
And we're all competing for those top spots.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? What's your personal philosophy on all this? How do you balance your own ambition with, the greater good?
That's a great question. It really makes you think.
It does. It's about figuring out what you believe in and how you want to use your influence.
Power's a tool.
And like any tool, you can use it in different ways.
It's up to you to decide how you wield it.
This deep dive has been, well, eye-opening. I feel like I have this whole new understanding of how power works. Not just at work, but everywhere.
It's fascinating stuff.
It is. And Pfeffer's book is a great guide. It gives us so much to think about.
So what's one thing our listeners can do right now to maybe, start putting all this into practice?
Great question. Strengthen your network. Build your social capital. Or just approach a challenge in a new way. Even small steps can make a difference over time. So keep learning, keep connecting, and keep making a positive impact on the world. Until next time.